I took care of Sam during the 3 years he was in a wheelchair. I was more than willing to play the role of the one in his heart because he had once saved me from the abyss without any hesitation. He promised me that the day he could stand again, I'd be his wife. But when he stood again, the first thing he did was call off our engagement, leaving me ousted from home. I got caught up in a murder scandal, and even though he knew I wasn't the killer, he wouldn't testify for me. He just sent a cold message through someone, "Emily, you should have been dead long ago." The whole city knew how much I loved Sam, loved him enough to play someone else's stand-in with pleasure. Emily, I've seen shameless people, but you're the most shameless of all. Sam's friends always hated me, especially Tom. Every time he saw me with Sam, I couldn't avoid his jabs. Today was Sam's last rehab session. I didn't want to argue with anyone. Seeing me not picking on him as usual, Tom looked rather annoyed. The therapy room door slowly opened from inside. Sam appeared slowly. No cane, no trembling. He walked naturally. I rushed to wipe the sweat off his forehead, wanting to hold his wrist from my heartache, but he dodged disdainfully. I've already gotten used to it. Even the butler hurried over to support him. He seemed not to see me, walking all by himself deeper into the corridor. Emily, how much longer do you think Sam will tolerate you? Tom mocked in my ear. I pretended not to hear and headed to the parking lot. Yet, he still wouldn't leave me alone, yapping like a grasshopper behind me. Emily, everyone knows you're throwing yourself at him. How can you compare to Linda? I paused my steps. No matter how many times I heard this, it still hurt. Don't worry, when the time comes, I'll naturally leave. I wasn't going to keep getting hurt and still beg like a little girl for a fairy tale dream that doesn't exist. The villa lights were still on. Sam had been back for an hour but didn't tell me. Emily, aren't you leaving yet? I can stand now. This was our agreement from 3 months ago. As soon as he could stand, I'd move out. I took a long look at him before finally averting my gaze. Understood. Before I could go upstairs, a car horn sounded outside, followed by a heavy voice. Sam, Richard is gone. My heart skipped a beat when I heard that. The whole family was in turmoil, discussing the will. I sat quietly by the bed, like an outsider. Emily, if you hadn't caused trouble, Richard would still be alive, Sam said ruthlessly beside me. How dare you let an old man pay your debt? I stared blankly at the elderly man in the hospital bed. My heart felt plunged into ice. Grandpa, you still didn't choose me. The funeral was rushed but still packed with the elite. The so-called mourning was just a guise for benefits and exchanges. I watched coldly, finding it ludicrous. Who would care about an orphan with no parents or family? Emily, I had all your things thrown away. You carry the smell of death. You don't want to bring bad luck to Sam right after he recovered, do you? Looking at my soaked luggage by Tom's feet, I laughed silently. They couldn't wait to kick me out. By the way, just so you know, during the funeral earlier, Sam already annulled your engagement and announced his engagement to Linda. Tom looked at me smugly, hoping I'd freak out. 10 minutes passed, and seeing my indifferent look, he seemed a bit flustered. Your grandpa just died. Your fiancé publicly canceled your engagement in front of your grandpa's family and announced he's marrying another woman. Aren't you mad? Seems like he realized this wasn't the right way to go about it. Nothing to be mad about. If it was never mine to begin with, after all this effort, it still isn't mine. There's no point in persisting. Emily, been looking all over for you. Didn't expect you hiding here. Spill. How many shares did Grandpa transfer to you? I was briefly stunned, then quickly figured it out. So this was the pit the old man left for me. My heart ached. 20 years of grandfather-granddaughter relations, and he could abandon it all. More people started questioning me. However many times I said no, they didn't believe me. In the end, they even searched me. All my dignity was stripped away, leaving just my thin sweater on my body. You're a lowlife, consuming food from our house all these years and not knowing any gratitude. My clenched fists loosened, then clenched again, finally dropping in unwillingness. Grandpa, you really ruined me. Once they realized they couldn't find anything, they unwillingly left. Tom witnessed the whole ordeal, seemingly surprised. Emily, aren't you the queen of comebacks? Why were you taking it all quietly just now? Normally, you'd slap them right away. I had no time for Tom's curiosity. I had more important things to do. What are you doing here? Emily, we have nothing left between us. Seeing Sam's healthy legs made me genuinely happy. At least my 3-year effort wasn't in vain. Sam got a bit impatient. He hated it when someone just stared at his legs. It felt intrusive to him. Emily, Linda wouldn't do such ill-mannered things. You'll never measure up to her. I was stunned. I didn't know why he said that. He'd said a lot of similar stuff over the past couple of years. A strong perfume smell rushed into my nose. I quickly wrinkled my nose and took a few steps back. Emily, Linda feigned innocence. I heard you had Grandpa fake it, saying you had bipolar disorder? Emily, as women, we should have self-respect. Don't keep trying shady tactics thinking they'll win someone's heart. 2 years ago, Sam's people found my psychologist and discovered I didn't actually have bipolar disorder. Of course, bringing this up made Sam's face darken quite a bit. I couldn't stand that expression on him. I blurted out an explanation. Sam, I never lied to you. He didn't believe it and sneered. Emily, you lied your grandpa to death and you're still denying. You know, if there's one person who gets me, it has to be Sam. He always knows just how to hit me where it hurts. When he heard they kicked me out, he actually let out a little laugh. Emily, karma's a bitch, huh? Soon enough, I found out why he was laughing. I'd been sold off to some businessman to bring in some investments. I refused to believe it didn't have Sam's fingerprints on it. Why do you hate me so much? I never understood what I did wrong. Even if I did scam him, it didn't have to be this extreme. The sarcasm in Sam's eyes was too obvious. Then he just laughed with this absurdity. Emily, you don't even know what you did wrong. That's just sad. Confused, I raised my hand to touch my chest. The strange thing was, it didn't hurt anymore. This heart that had been beating for Sam all this time was now mine again. The villa was eerily silent. No servants, just big guys stationed outside. To prevent me from escaping, the family had drugged me before they brought me here. The creaking of a door turning sounded in the quiet. I tried to force open my dreamy eyes, hoping to pull myself together before someone got too close. Rough hands wandered over me, cigarette breath in my face making me gag. You disgust me. I retched louder. A stinging heat flared on my right cheek. Belts were unbuckled and slapped down on me, one after another, each strike almost numbingly painful. I almost wished for death, but the man on top of me started bleeding from every orifice, like he was cursed. Before I could process it, he fell to the side. The thud of his body crashed against me. The guards rushed in at the scene, me covered in the guy's blood. The cops arrived quickly. She killed our boss. Their minions accused me loudly. Their powerful partner wasn't even worth the cops' trouble. With the guards' testimony, my fate was sealed. They dragged my sorry self to meet Sam. He obviously knew this was a setup from the beginning, just waiting to trap me. Emily, if you cripple your legs, I'll testify for you in court, he offered out of the blue. The mention of legs sparked a deep-seated hatred in his eyes. I frowned. Why would I cripple myself? Sam raised an eyebrow, his voice biting. You're the reason I lost my legs? Plotted 3 years to win me over. You've got no place to demand anything. 3 years ago, Sam had enemies everywhere and drove off a cliff to his doom. By the time he was found, it was too late for his legs. I'll never forget how he broke down in the hospital. If I hadn't stopped him from jumping off the rooftop, he'd never have had a chance to stand again. Yet, he shared a different tale. Suddenly, a stinging pain shot through my knees. A flying ashtray had hit me without notice. Emily, I shouldn't have gone soft on you. I was placed in a single cell. Loads of people wanted to see me, but I turned them all away, except for Tom. He came 5 times. He said he can save you, a guard relayed. I was shocked. How in the world could I connect Tom to this idea of rescuing me? With just a window between us, the once proud man looked worn out. The itch on that wound returned. Emily, you okay? He asked unexpectedly. Surprised, I didn't know what to make of his concern, but I nodded anyhow. Best to send him off quickly. People like him loved their theatrics even while I was locked up. They weren't above savoring the novelty of my imprisonment, sickeningly rich quirks and all. The small space was stifling, ratcheting up my frustration. On trial day, Tom sat on the defendant's side. All his gathered evidence was laid bare. Emily was framed. She was drugged and couldn't hurt anyone. Tom's voice echoed full of anger. This was supposed to help? This guy was clueless, just setting himself for their snare. A simple test showed Jack's drugs were administered 2 hours before. Emily hadn't been drugged yet. Tom was immediately defeated. Even he hadn't anticipated their attack. It felt like I was watching a play, detached, out of touch. And then Sam took the stand. I saw Emily drug Jack, he declared. Just that single line could bury me alive. Soon, the so-called video evidence reached the judge. No signs of tampering. Emily, do you acknowledge your crimes? I let out a silent laugh. Your Honor, I'd like medical attention, please. Sam frowned deeply. Emily, really? You want to pull this stunt in a serious environment? I ignored him. Pulling my uniform, I revealed my back riddled with scars and my newly marked wrist. I have mental health issues, I admitted. The itch in my wrist intensified. In a frenzy, I clawed at myself but found no relief until a thought sparked within. My eyes fell on Sam's pen clipped to his suit. Before anyone could react, I lunged for it, thrust it deep into my wrist. Finally, some peace. Jennifer's heart, an icy void since Grandpa's demise, made a fleeting return to life. Sam was frozen, fumbling to help me. The courtroom was in chaos. I was put in the back of an ambulance. I could hear Sam cursing under his breath. Emily, how many times are you gonna pull the same trick? Fine, you should have been dead ages ago. I nodded, not realizing he turned a shade darker out of anger. In a flash, I thought I saw my grandfather's shadow. He still had that disapproving look, just like before. What more do you want? I got you everything you wanted with Sam, why can't you just let go? How did I end up with such a thankless brat like you? You should never have been born. Does everyone just want me dead? I didn't realize I actually said it out loud. Yeah, Emily, we all want you dead. Sam, you're joking with someone's life. Stop now, you'll regret it. Tom's loud voice pulled me out from a dreamy slumber. My right wrist was wrapped tightly, nowhere to scratch the itch. What are you doing? Seeing him try to take the glass shard from me, I jumped out of bed, but the handcuffs kept me tethered. Without anything to scratch with, anxiety stormed through my body. Give it back. Sam looked flustered. Emily, enough with the act. Fine, I won't send you to prison. He seemed to have given in, sort of helpless about me. But his words didn't ease my anxiety. Knowing I couldn't get the shard back, I paced by the bed frantically muttering, "What now? What now?" My wrist itched so bad, I bit it hard. Just when I was going for a second bite, doctors and nurses rushed in and pinned me down on the bed. Once the sedative hit, I lost consciousness. When I woke, the cuffs that tied me to the hospital bed were gone. I instinctively tried to put my hand in my mouth but was halted by a strong grip. Emily, no more biting, Sam said. Frustrated, I lowered my hand, trying to keep the raging violence at bay. Why are you still here? Each word laced with a dismissive tone, but he acted like he didn't hear, pressing the call button. Mr. Sam, the test results are back, the nurse said. Miss Emily does have a severe mental illness. Sam froze like a statue, hand still holding onto mine, stuck in place for what felt like ages. I clicked my tongue and shook off his arm, taking the chance to scratch at my wrist until fresh scratches bled, which Sam pulled me back from. What do you want from me? You're the one who tortured me first. Still lost in the depths of my emotions, he forcefully pulled me from the abyss. Emily, what's wrong with you? How could you? Sam's eyes widened, recalling something. No way. I checked it all. You were lying to me all along. Are you crazy? I've always been sick. Yes, I'm a nutcase. Just like that old man, refusing to believe I'm sick. You've been fooled, Sam. All of us were tricked by him. Tom intervened just in time, sliding the documents he found over to Sam, then cautiously approached to bandage my wounds. Emily, I'm sorry I believed the rumors. I grimaced, avoiding his hand. Get away, I'm bad luck. Tom awkwardly held his hand in midair, unsure what to do next. Why didn't you ever tell me? Sam's voice was hoarse, like it was filled with sand. I gingerly touched my right wrist, and after some comfort, spoke up. It's not like I didn't. You just didn't listen. Why bother? You found your truth, didn't you? Sam hesitated, stunned. That so-called truth had been etched in his mind, and he'd sentenced me long ago. When someone's on death row, why believe a word they say? The first year I was taken home, I knew no one there wanted me. I was just a tool to keep my brother safe. Emily, if you don't behave, I'll send you back to your adoptive parents. Before I was 6, I lived under constant violence with my adoptive parents, instinctively not wanting to return to that dark place. But later, I realized it was just a different kind of torture. Most of my childhood was spent in captivity. If I showed any defiance, they'd lock me in the small dark room. Why are you hiding here? Are you scared of something? That's when Sam appeared, accidentally opening the latch and pulling me out of the dark tool room. It's okay. If you get scared, find me. I'll protect you. His promise shook the whole family. None dared disobey Sam. At least I wouldn't be locked in the dark room again. I was 15 then. Sam finally remembered our first meeting, trembling hands betraying his emotions. I never knew. I hated seeing that regretful look. What's the point of acting all innocent now that it's happened? What's the verdict? How long is it? I impatiently asked. Mental illness can reduce a sentence to some extent. I had no connections, no power, so it was my only way to lighten my burden. He paused, then realized I was asking about the sentence. Quickly regaining himself, he said, "There's no more case, you don't have to go in. Emily, you're safe now." Sam pulled me into a comforting hug. Murderers don't have to face the consequences? I mumbled against his chest. His body stiffened. Emily, Jack's death isn't on you. Someone else has to pay for that. I laughed bitterly, my heart aching. Didn't you tell me on the ambulance you wished I'd die? Sam's comforting hand hung in midair, then he helplessly looked at me cradled in his arms. Emily, I was speaking out of anger. I never wanted you to die. Men just know how to talk and are always quick to say I told you so. We'll be good from now on. I'll take you home right away. I pulled away from him. Home? But didn't you guys already throw my stuff out? Grandpa's gone too. What home do I even have? Tom, who'd been quiet all this time, suddenly looked pale. Same with Sam. But honestly, I didn't have the energy to deal with them right now. Haven't rested well in ages. If I didn't kill anyone, then you guys can just leave. No need to put on a show for me. Believe me, you weren't any saints in my eyes to begin with. But Sam ignored my disdain and insisted on taking me back to the villa. Emily, I know I wronged you a lot, but at least give me a chance to make it up to you. I couldn't help but scoff. If you dare take me back today, I guarantee you'll only see a corpse tomorrow. The real killer of Jack was caught. It was his mistress. On top of that, there was another shocking revelation. The long-missing eldest grandson of the Richard family finally showed up. Within 2 weeks, he purged the company and took over as head of the family. My brother took me to his home. Emily, what do you want? He knew an apology was pointless, so he wanted to give me everything he had to make it up to me. But I wasn't so blind to the truth. We were just pawns in the Richard family power struggle. I want to go skiing. Richard looked stunned, not expecting me to say that. He seemed like he wanted to persuade me. Emily, I can protect you now. You don't have to hold back anymore. Only then did I start to feel it. All these years of torment, someone was silently grieving for me. But I was too drained to enjoy such familial love. I was so tired I could barely stand. The sharp smell of antiseptic hit my nose. I groggily opened my eyes, not sure how I suddenly teleported to a hospital. Seeing my brother's pained expression, a sense of clarity hit me. Emily, why didn't you ever tell me? Facing my only kin, I always couldn't bear to. Besides, we'd only recently reunited. I tapped my brother's hand reassuringly. Who'd have thought he'd be the first to find out? The Richard family made its fortune in pharmaceuticals, solidifying its grip during Grandpa's time. To maintain this top spot, they had to keep evolving. And I became the sole shadow in this bright industry. I was used as the first batch in drug trials to develop new medicine. As a member of the Richard family, sacrifices had to be made. And that sacrifice was pushing their granddaughter into trials for family glory. The old man was quite ruthless. Didn't expect my body to give out so soon though. I thought with my stubborn spirit I'd last till at least 35. The day I was discharged, Sam and Tom showed up. Sam seemed like he'd aged 10 years. He reached out his trembling hands to help, but my brother cut him off. Sam, you don't deserve to get close to my sister. Even though I hadn't been back in years, my brother knew all about what happened. Not believing she was sick was you. Misunderstanding her was you. Promising to marry her was also you. What right do you have to be in front of my sister now? My brother scolded Sam brutally. You're a bastard. The moment you dragged her to court was the moment you lost her. Sam stood frozen. My brother's arrival shattered his dream, forcing him to face reality. I really regret it. Emily, can you give me another chance? I'm begging you, let me make amends. A proud man, he lowered his head and gave up his pride. For others, there's time for a second chance. But my remaining days are numbered, and I don't have space for someone like that. Sam, why should I pay for your sins? Thought he'd give up. Yet, unbelievably, he kidnapped me back to the villa, and practically locked me up in the room. Emily, I'm sorry, I can't let go. A suffocating wave hit me again. Automatically, I tried to put my right hand in my mouth but was stopped in time by someone nearby. Don't worry, once you're healthy, I'll let you go. Emily, let me take care of you. I didn't think Sam would go this far. Loads of medical experts moved into the villa. They monitored me daily and tried to come up with a cure. Yet my worn-out body couldn't handle the constant tests. Quickly, something went wrong with me. Rejection reaction to the meds. Mr. Sam, Miss Emily's body has long been depleted. Are you sure you want to continue? In my opinion, stopping and letting Miss Emily be comfortable in her last days is a kinder choice. That doctor, unsurprisingly, got kicked out by Sam. No way. Emily will live well. You're all useless, just talking rubbish. I didn't have the strength to listen anymore. My energy was drained from those few days. I just wanted a good night's sleep. Sam, why can't you just let me go? Emily, I just want you to live well. Sam, what more do you want to do to my sister until you're satisfied? The pounding in my chest yanked me back from the brink of unconsciousness. Oh, my brother was here. Emily's condition can be saved. My medical team already has a treatment plan. Richard, I have to save her. My brother's anger eased a bit. Sensing his hesitation, I quickly opened my eyes and tugged at his sleeve. It hurt so much. I couldn't hold back the tears from the corners of my eyes. It was just too painful. Really, too painful. I don't want to take medicine anymore, nor do I want all those cold instruments entering my body. It felt like a century had passed. Finally, my brother responded. He said, okay, I can finally have a restful sleep now. This experience was pretty awful. After taking me home, Richard went back to his usual routine. Every day after work, he'd come back to be with me, more punctual than the clock on the wall. Tom wanted to see you. Are you going to meet him? I thought for a while and nodded. There was something only he could help me with. On December 31st, Richard couldn't come back because of a company event. I left home with a small bag. Outside, Tom was waiting for me. His eyes were full of deep pain. Emily, I cut him off with a cold shake of my head. If you say it, I'll go alone. He kept quiet, acting as my silent bodyguard. If it weren't for the language barrier, I wouldn't have asked him for help. The plane landed in a freezing place. I was captivated by the snowy mountains as soon as I stepped off the plane. Tom seemed heavier with worry. Emily, I'm sorry. I ignored him, took my luggage, and went to my room. The sun was setting. I turned down Tom's invitation to dinner. I stayed quietly in the hotel until midnight. The first day of the new year had finally ended. I lay in the snow and slowly closed my eyes, silently apologizing to Richard. I let down the only person in this world who was good to me. Before 28, I didn't even have the freedom to die. After 28, I gained the freedom to live. I found my release. Tom's epilogue. I used to look down on women like Emily. Every time she appeared, I couldn't help but be drawn to her. I thought it was because I hated her. But at Richard's funeral, I realized I started to feel sorry for her. But Sam being unable to stand was her doing. I told myself not to soften. Yet, when I heard she had killed someone, I felt deeply uneasy. I knew Sam must have had a hand in it. I should have stayed indifferent. But a life is a life, and I never wanted Emily dead. When she jabbed her wrist with a pen, it felt like a boulder hit my heart. For the first time, I realized how much she affected me. I tried to rush and hold her, but Sam beat me to it. Even with his controlled calmness, a trace of panic slipped through. Turns out, he'd never faced his own feelings. In the ambulance, it seemed like Emily was having a nightmare. She kept murmuring, "Do you all want me to die?" My heart ached. Just as I was about to tell her, "I don't," Sam responded first. He always thought that speaking harshly could spark Emily's will to live. But this time, he was wrong. Emily really wanted to die. I have reason to believe that when she attacked herself in court, she'd already given up. Just like when she peacefully died in the mountains, frighteningly calm. I thought she wouldn't see me. So when Richard said she wanted to meet me, I was beyond surprised. She said she wanted me to take her traveling, and I agreed without hesitation, because I thought it was a second chance granted by fate. But as soon as we stepped off the plane, I had a bad feeling. Yet she remained calm. By the time I realized and rushed to her room, it was too late. The police informed me and gave me a letter. It contained her last requests. "I hope you can bring my body back home so Richard can see me one last time." She chose me to accompany her only so someone could return her body to her brother. Heartbroken, I held her cold body, silently expressing my overdue love. She probably knew what that unfinished sentence was, so she didn't want to hear it. Because I never pitied her, she didn't plan to pity me either. With a calm yet grand death, she got back at all of us, forcing us to live with regret, making me experience the death of someone I loved and never forget. This time, Emily won. Richard's epilogue. I first found out I had a sister when I was 12. At that time, my grandpa was sending me abroad for training. My parents were the least capable of their generation in the family, so naturally, my grandpa pinned all his hopes for the future on me. I pushed myself to the limit just so I could go home sooner and meet my sister. I had seen her pictures. She was cute, but didn't smile much. But even by the time I was 18, Grandpa still wouldn't let me go back, even though I had completed all the tasks he set for me. "Richard, your sister is the pride of this family. She's done what your parents couldn't do." I was genuinely happy for her back then, because she earned Grandpa's rare praise. However, when I saw her lying in pain on that hospital bed, I realized that praise came with unbearable suffering. A girl who'd never been nurtured properly endured all kinds of medical trials. Her endurance surpassed many grown men, but I wish she hadn't pushed through. At least then she wouldn't have faced such immense agony later on. Sam is a bastard. He knew better than to make promises lightly, yet he said he would marry my sister. And he never followed through. He's just a jerk who never considered Emily's feelings. Hearing her cry out in pain nearly drowned me in guilt. Why couldn't I return sooner? I was so looking forward to reuniting with my sister. I had planned to take her skiing once the annual event was over, because she had mentioned wanting to go. I wanted to make up for all the joy she missed out on, but Emily never lived to see it. I'm always a step behind her. I've truly failed as a brother. After Emily's body was brought back home, per her last wishes, I scattered her ashes into the sea. Now no one will find her, or disturb her ever again. I found a letter she wrote for me in her room. She had prepared everything, even knowing she might not make it. Over the years, she was completely worn down. Richard, don't feel sorry. I finally got to make a choice for myself. You should let your sister fulfill this one wish, she wrote. Besides that, her letter was full of reminders to me. Don't stay up late, don't skip meals. In those brief moments together, it felt like she'd never left my life. Sam wanted to come to her funeral. I had someone send him home with a few bruises. My hope is that in her next life, she's born into a normal family, and that I'll get to be her brother again. Failing to protect her childhood was my failure. Just give me one more chance to be a good brother, okay? A month after Emily passed, she finally appeared in my dreams. I was like an excited kid, hugging her tightly. She really seemed happy. Emily gently patted my head. Richard, don't frown anymore, okay? Emily doesn't like it.